What's going on, everyone? Welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks and Game Time. It's Brian Hines back as always with Alex Barth, and we have a coaching hire to talk about today. We have a player signing. We'll be talking some fullbacks, a small futures contract given out by the Patriots today. Then we have some NFL news, maybe a star pass rusher requesting trades. Big week in the sports world for trades in general, and maybe that's touching the NFL soon with one Myles Garrett. But we will start with some of the new additions coming to New England next season, and the one big spot left on the staff that was left to be filled was wide receivers coach. It's a position we've talked a lot about because it hasn't been great in that room for a while, obviously here, and developing some of those young players. And they landed on Todd Downing, according to Greg Bedard. He was with Vrabel. He coached tight ends in Tennessee for 2 years. He was promoted to offensive coordinator. I believe that was after Arthur Smith left. He took over for 2 years, and then he got fired after the second year. The offense, I believe it was 28th in points scored. So he's been with the Jets the last 2 years as a passing game coordinator and quarterbacks coach. That's kind of his background. He's done a lot of work with quarterbacks, but he's never coached the wide receiver position before. And that was a big thing. We talked a lot about getting an experienced guy in here who's done it, who's coached the position. I get he's been an offensive coordinator, but I don't know. Do you like that? Or would you have preferred like a Wes Welker or someone who's actually coached wide receivers?
Yeah, I absolutely would have preferred somebody who's coached wide receivers. Like, don't get me wrong. Todd Downing's resume is solid for what it is. This is a guy that's at 44 years old, has been around this league. He's been with the Vikings, Rams, Lions, Bills, Raiders, Titans, and Jets. He's been a quarterbacks coach. He's been a tight ends coach. He's been an offensive coordinator. He's been pass game coordinator. Like, he's even worked in front offices for a spell. Very experienced, very well-rounded candidate. But for a team that hasn't had a true wide receivers coach in years, I just don't really get it. Like, get somebody who can develop players at the position, especially if they plan on taking a wide receiver higher in the draft. Now, and I was especially surprised because Mike Reese in his Sunday notes mentioned Welker as a candidate for the position. If they go out and they sign Welker, and maybe it's not Welker because he's probably past this point in his career, but a true wide receivers coach, if they go out and get somebody like that as like the assistant wide receivers coach, right? And I was kind of talking to somebody about it today, and it was kind of posed to me this way, right? Let's say they'd hired Wes Welker as the receivers coach and Todd Downing was the assistant receivers coach. Okay, like I get it, because Downing's strength is in teaching the offense, not teaching the technique, but teaching the offense. And how many times did we hear last year that Javon Baker couldn't get on the same page as the coaching staff, right? Or Jalen Polk maybe didn't entirely grasp the offense, or even some of those more veteran guys. I think that they believe Downing is somebody who can do a good job relaying that information, but you still need somebody who can coach the technique, especially if you're going to have a rookie in here, and it's going to be a young room overall no matter what. So if you told me it was like Welker is the wide receivers coach and Downing is the assistant wide receivers coach, and Downing's there to make sure they all know the playbook and they're on the same page, and Welker's there to work on the technique, fine. So if it's the other way around, I guess, like, sure, whatever, but you need that guy. You have to have that guy, especially at this position. How many times do we talk about it during the season? And I see everybody in the chat talking about how, well, it's not going to matter if they don't draft good players. And I get that. I do. But wide receiver development has been such a problem here for a long time. And it's not, they've drafted their fair share of bad players, but that's not entirely it. That's really not entirely it. There's, You see guys go elsewhere and have more success, or
and I think
you
we
see
agree,
guys
like,
regress.
Jalen Polk isn't this bad.
No,
like from
no,
what we saw when he first
not,
arrived, even but then it plateaued, and it got worse. Honestly, it didn't plateau. It got worse from the summer. Like I don't think
right.
he's that
He didn't
bad.
get less talented over the course of the year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jalen Polk did not get he didn't get any better, but that also kind of goes to development. Even a bad player in theory should get better over the course of the season if you're able to develop them. And I don't think he's the only one. I think they've had other wide receivers come through here that, I don't know that they would have been great, but could have been solid players had they, maybe had the right coaching. So this one's a head scratcher to me. If they go out and get like a true skills coach as the assistant, it will make a lot more sense because that's what they've been lacking. And the other thing is like the whole thing with Josh McDaniels, he's supposed to be this great teacher, right? He's supposed to be the one that's relaying the playbook. It's definitely something you want. I don't want to say it wasn't something that needed to be addressed. It did, but I don't think it was the main concern. Skill development, talent development, that was the main concern. Hiring Downing to me doesn't address that.
Yep. And that kind of lays, it feels like just the way you set that up, that was the room last year at that coaching spot, right? Because we had Tyler Hughes, who wasn't a wide receiver, but he would come in here. He kind of knew the offense, what you expected to want to run. And then we said, okay, Tyquan Underwood, the player who's done it before, would be more of that skills guy, right? So Tyler Hughes is implementing the offense, and then Tyquan Underwood can take him out on the field and work on their release package or their route running and stuff like that. And it obviously didn't unfold well. Now, those guys didn't have the experience of Todd Downing, right? Neither of those guys were offensive coordinators. I believe that was Tyquan Underwood's first NFL coaching job. It was mostly at the collegiate ranks for him. So maybe you can find, with Downing's experience, and then you go find someone, maybe it's a McDaniels guy. Like Mick Lombardi is just a Niners general offensive assistant. Would he want to?
Well, how about Ben McDaniels?
That's true.
Who did a great job with those receivers in Houston.
Did they say he was out, or could Nick Caley keep him in Houston? Is there because there could be a McDaniels Caley connection?
So I hadn't seen any update since Caley got hired. I think the idea was kind of that the whole thing was in limbo until they, it was unknown. And usually when that's the case, teams will let these guys interview. You're right. I would not be surprised if, it doesn't matter now, they hired Downing, but I would not be surprised if Caley keeps Ben McDaniels.
And then was it you or Taylor who was big on Luke Steckel? Like he's got wide receiver background. Now that could be he's tight end.
He has tight end background.
I thought he had some wide receiver background too.
Does he? He had a bunch. I'm trying to remember now. He had 1 year as an assistant wide receivers coach. It's
okay. So that's not much.
You want somebody a little more experienced than that.
Yeah. And
I take him as a tight ends coach.
Well, you have Thomas Brown, so
that is true.
That's probably not going to happen. But tight ends coach, pass game coordinator, I think it's his title.
That's Thomas Brown.
So yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a guy with experience, but it's not someone with wide receiver coach experience. So getting someone, I don't know if Welker would want to come in here and be like an assistant in that room to Todd Downing, like because he's been, he's led a room in his past. So I don't know if that's something that would interest him. But getting someone in here who can help with the on-field development a little more than you would think a Todd Downing would be my preference now to kind of mix and match these guys.
Same.
Yeah. So I don't know that I think we both agree that's not a hire we're thrilled about. As just the last week since the staff has really started to take fold, are you feeling better or worse about it now that Pellegrino, Brian Belichick are out? We have our answer at wide receivers coach. Do you think any differently about this Vrabel staff now that we're getting a little clearer picture of the whole thing?
I would say that this is probably my least favorite hire they've made so far in Downing. I like where they're at beyond that. I obviously don't love, and we talked about this last week, I don't love them moving on from Mike Pellegrino, but if the idea is that, and we found out from Mike Reese too this week that Matthew Slater's not going to be back, Troy Brown's not going to be back. If the idea was just
Slater's a weird one too, I feel. What's the harm? What's the harm unless he doesn't want to be here? What's the harm of letting
that might be part of it.
Matthew
his role was pretty specific to Gerard Mayo. And so maybe
give him a general assistant. He helped Jeremy Springer, he helped Brendan Schooler. Drake May even talked about this week how Slater helped them with some of those things, just being a rookie and being in the league. That feels like a weird one. If it was them showing Slater the door and kind of kicking him out, that kind of feels weird. But maybe he had a role in it too. He didn't want to come back.
Maybe I also just feel like it's, clean slate, right? All right. We're just, everybody's out. It's going to be a full reset. I know they kept the 2 special teams coaches. And by the way, I saw before we got on here, it doesn't sound like Cody Tippett's going to be back with them. So there is even turnover there. Vrabel's familiar with Quinn. I think had Quinn not been here last year, he still would have been the guy for that job. And then obviously with Springer as well. But the vibe I'm getting from all of this is it's a full reset. And I know that was kind of what gave some people hesitancy early on last year was, all right, you're moving on from Bill, but you're keeping everybody that was around him. So how much is really going to change for the people who wanted to see change? And this is, you won back-to-back. You won 4 games back-to-back years in a row. And it was with different coaching staffs, but like how much of that do you want to keep? I think Vrabel just wanted a clean start. And that's why you see guys like Slater, guys like Pellegrino moving on.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely with Pellegrino and Belichick and Brian Belichick in the secondary. That's a risk, because those have been, I wouldn't say your back-to-back 4-win seasons. I wouldn't put much blame on the secondary for those. They got a lot out of those guys. Obviously Christian Gonzalez was a first-round pick, and we had high expectations, but the way he's played, and then finding like guys like Alex Austin essentially off the street and plugging those guys in, like moving off of Pellegrino, it's a risk, but maybe the guys they bring in are just as good. So I like the staff at the start. Josh McDaniels was a good hire. Terrell Williams seems like he was on that, ascend up to a defensive coordinator anyway. But I think some of the stuff the last week, even like a Doug Marrone as the offensive line coach, if it looks like that's where he's going to be working. I know, again, a guy with a lot of experience, but some of his past results haven't necessarily been great, whether it's, going back to Alabama or his time at New Orleans, and then Pellegrino, Belichick, and now Todd Downing at wide receiver. So I've kind of cooled some love for the staff, but, I still like Josh. I still think Terrell Williams will do a good enough job, although that's secondary.
I still overall, sorry to cut you off. I still think it's a good staff. I just don't love this one higher.
I would probably, I don't know. Would you have a grade for it? B-, B?
Yeah, somewhere around there. I think B's fine. Let's see where they put everybody. I'm curious what they're going to do about offensive line coach. Is it Doug Marrone, or is he like a consultant and somebody else is coaching the line? We'll say it's going to be in the B range. I think I'll give them that. It's in the B range. Let me see where they place everybody before I give you like a final grade.
Yep. Yeah, but I'm in there. I'm in there with you. So I believe that was it on the staff, correct? Todd Downing in, Tyquan Underwood. He took a job with Dallas. Tippett, as you mentioned, coming out. So just a few other of those assistants that were left going out, and Todd Downing going in. But also we had in a fullback, tight end / fullback, fun stuff. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about Prize Picks, where you guys pick just more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash in its Super Bowl weekend week. Taylor's actually down there if you want to follow him and Amit. They'll have plenty of coverage on Patriots Press Pass and Patriots CLNS on Twitter. And you can join in for the big game, the last week of football action with Prize Picks. And they have a big game free pick on Patrick Mahomes, a projection discount. His total passing yards was 250.5. It is down to a half a passing yard. So he just needs 1 passing yard for you to win. And you can pair that with another player projection. Maybe he's throwing to Travis Kelce more than 62.5 receiving yards. Maybe he's throwing to Xavier Worthy more than 56.5 receiving yards. Or if you're rooting for the Eagles and Saquon Barkley, more than 112.5 rush yards. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup on Prize Picks. Run your game. Barth and I will have our big game lineup. We'll go through it on Thursday's show, or our second show this week, whenever that ends up being, so you guys can play along with us and use that Patrick Mahomes projection lineup square in your lineup again, all on Prize Picks, promo code CLNS. So back to Patriots. We have a potential tight end / fullback in here, Giovanni Ricci. What a name that is. He spent some time with Vrabel in Cleveland. He was there in training camp this past summer, but they released him a knee injury. He suffered a knee injury, and so he didn't really play, but maybe we're seeing our fullback, or again, tight end, fullback, versatile guy. But what do you got on Giovanni Ricci?
Versatile player, like you said, has played tight end and fullback. Familiarity with both Mike Vrabel and Ben McAdoo. From everything I read from the Cleveland writers, he was going to make the team last year with the Browns, and camp was one of their big surprises of camp, and then suffered a knee injury in the preseason, got cut with an injury settlement, and didn't sign in the NFL. I don't know that he's the answer at fullback. I think if we just look at that kind of player, who was the guy we thought they were going to turn into like a super utility back a couple of years ago? It was the COVID year, and then he retired. No, he was a veteran. Danny Vitale.
Yeah.
Or Vitale or whatever it was. Like he was here the COVID year, and we were like, wow, they're really going to have, it was like that guy with Cam Newton. You could do a bunch of fun stuff with it. And then he opted out. I don't think he ever played again. I think he retired after that. But anyway, maybe gives us some indication. Maybe Josh McDaniels wants to get back to that he tried to do in 2020 and couldn't do. So that this isn't like a true James Devlin, Jakob Johnson converted defensive end fullback kind of player. He's not quite Kyle Juszczyk. He's closer to Devlin and Jakob Johnson than he is Juszczyk, but he does have some of that pass catching ability, can line up outside the formation, things like that. So if that's the kind of fullback they want, I think he'll be in the mix. I think he's certainly a guy that can be in the mix and can compete for that spot. But I don't know that he's done enough at the NFL level where you're not bringing in somebody else maybe to compete with him. Think about that, Brian, a fullback position battle in training camp.
Fire us up, baby. Fire us up.
That is like as Patriots beat as you can get. I would love that.
And we could have a kicker competition probably.
Whoa. Where are we going to run with Reese for the fullback competition?
For the fullback competition? I don't know. We're
going to have to figure out the best place.
Well, we don't have a quarterback competition this year. So
we might have backup quarterback competition.
Backup quarterback maybe. So that will be nice. All eyes on fullback and kicker competition.
Giovanni Ricci is the new Jacoby Brissett, basically.
Jakob Johnson was 6'3", 256. They have Ricci as 6'3", 245.
He's a little smaller than that.
10-pound difference. So yeah, maybe not that full like downhill bruiser.
He's also more athletic than Johnson was too.
Yeah, let me look up what's like
Devlin,
Patrick Ricard, or who's
Ricard's like 300 pounds.
Yeah, Juszczyk would be a good one. Kyle Juszczyk.
I think he's bigger than Juszczyk. Wow, James Devlin was only 255. Is only 255.
Juszczyk's 6'2", 235. So yeah, that's like 10 pounds even lighter than Ricci. So
I'm trying to think of
he's like right in the middle of those two.
Right, which is I think that's kind of his playing style too. A guy like I know a good comp. And he was a Patriot. Remember Andrew Beck?
Yep. He's still kicking with the Texans.
Yeah, and he kind of does that. He is a fullback, but he plays some tight end too, and they use him in the pass game and all that. I would Andrew Beck might be I think that's more the kind of fullback we're looking at here.
Any draft guys that maybe fit that mold? I know you've done is it the Bama kid who you love? Does he fit that mold, or is he more? He
absolutely does, but he was supposed to be at the Senior Bowl and he wasn't. And there's always these guys that I'm not really sure if they're in the draft or not. But Robbie Oots would be great. That's the guy I want. The kid from Michigan's a junior. He's not coming out. We'll see. I'll have to dig a little deeper into that. I got too focused on Robbie Oots, and now nobody's talking about him.
That's the Bama one, right? Oots?
Yeah.
Okay. They don't have I just went to mock draft database. They don't have a fullback section. The disrespect.
They don't. They have in the past, or they've included them with the running backs or something, because I've seen them on there.
Maybe they're under. I was scrolling through the running backs. I don't see a fullback listed. That's disappointing.
Trying to see the last time anybody mentioned Robbie Oots on Twitter. Maybe you can get, because Field Yates mentioned that he was going to be in the draft, and then I haven't seen anything since.
Ball. He kept talking about special teams during the Senior Bowl broadcast. He knows where the good stuff's at. But
the last person to talk about Robbie Oots on Twitter is me. So right.
That checks out. So Giovanni Ricci, maybe that shows a little bit into their fullback plans, or that tight end fullback hybrid plans going into the offseason here, now that they are putting that in the lineup. But Some other NFL news, another former guy who played under Mike Vrabel. Myles Garrett requested a trade today. It doesn't sound like the Browns are currently willing to cooperate with those requests, but he asked for a trade out of Cleveland. He wants to go to a Super Bowl contender. 29 years old, pass rush, obviously big, high up on the Patriots' needs this offseason. Are you trading for Myles Garrett? If you are Mike Vrabel and the New England Patriots, Elliott Wolf spent 2 years with him in Cleveland as well, so lots of connections. Are you making that trade, and what would you be willing to give up if you were making that trade if you're the Patriots?
Yeah, this one's tricky for a lot of reasons. First of all, he said he wants to go to a contender. And I don't think that means a team that's going to win soon, like, give us another year or two and Drake May is going to take the jump. I think it means like he wants to be in the Super Bowl next year. So to sell him, he has to be a massive believer in Drake May and a massive believer in Mike Vrabel. Let's say you can even get to that step, which I don't know that you can. And I, by the way, wrote about this on 985thesportshub.com earlier this afternoon if you want to check it out. Let's say you can even get to that step. What do you give up for him? 4 is, and I know he's a tremendous player, and I'm the one that always says, are you going to draft a player better than Myles Garrett at 4? I would be tempted, but at the end of the day, Garrett's here for what, 3 or 4 years max? He's 29 years old.
The age is the tough part with him.
Right. You're talking about a guy who, with the 4th overall pick, who ideally you're going to build your franchise around for the next decade plus. But you're not going to get it done with 38 because those teams at the back end of the first round are in position to make this sort of trade. They are clearly going to get a player better than Myles Garrett. Or they're clearly not going to get a player better with Myles Garrett with those picks. So if you're the Patriots, what you probably have to do is trade 38 and something else or some things else to move up into the first round ahead of the draft, what the Vikings did last year. See if you can get up around the 20s, and then hopefully that pick plus whatever else you offer, you can outbid whatever other contenders are going for Myles Garrett. That's what you probably have to do. I don't think either of those things are going to happen. I don't think that they're going to be able to convince him that they are ready to win at the level he wants to win at right now. And I don't think that they're going to be able to put the package together to get him. It's a complete and total pipe dream to get Myles Garrett here in New England. It'd be nice, a hell of a player, but they're not in a position on multiple fronts to make that happen. Now, that being said, and this is kind of what I wrote about, there is a trickle-down effect here. There's multiple trickle-down effects here that are going to impact the Patriots offseason if he gets traded. And let's be clear about that. I don't know if you saw the quote from Andrew Berry that was like a couple weeks ago where he said, yeah, we're not trading Myles Garrett. He said, even if somebody offered me, I think he said like 2 firsts and then some, I would say no. And he even used the line like, we want him to go from Cleveland to Canton, which if you noticed, Myles Garrett in his statement flipped that, said the goal is not to go from Cleveland to Canton. So I don't think the Browns want to deal him. Maybe they hold on to him. Maybe they make him wait a year. But let's say they do deal him. There's multiple areas where this impacts the Patriots. The first in free agency, because if he gets traded, he's probably getting a new contract. And now that edge rusher market has been reset. And I don't think anybody's going to top him. But when you talk about what a deal looks like relative to his, guys like Josh Sweat, guys like any of those pass rushers at the top of the free agency class, those guys are now going to be asking for more money because the market's been reset. And none of them will ask for Myles Garrett money because they're not going to get it. But how much more is a pass rusher worth than they were before Garrett got a new deal? And my guess is if Garrett's traded, it's going to happen before free agency, before teams, cap money gets tied up. So I don't know that it's like, we'll sign him before Garrett gets traded. I don't know that you can do that. So it impacts him there. And then obviously in the draft, the Browns might look at this. It's bad quarterback year. Say, we're going to kick that down the road. Let's just 1 for 1. We're going to trade Myles Garrett. We're going to replace him with Abdul Carter so we can keep doing what we're doing defensively. There were some people who thought they might even pair Carter and Garrett together before this happened.
That'd be scary.
Right. However unlikely it was that Abdul Carter was going to get to 4, Myles Garrett getting traded just cuts into those odds significantly even further. So this does not help the case for the Patriots. And it also, if the Browns, let's say they get another first-round pick, well, now maybe you don't need to take Shedeur or Cam Ward at 2 if you want a quarterback. because what if, how do they view it? And in the way some people are talking about the quarterback class right now, what's the gap between whoever you put second there, right? Let's call it Shedeur because that seems to be the consensus right now. Is the gap between Shedeur and QB3, whether that's Jackson Dart, which it's not, Jalen Milroe, Will
sure?
Howard,
I
whoever.
heard Jackson Dart's QB1.
I heard JJ McCarthy was better than Caleb Williams and Will Levis was better than CJ Stroud. There's
hell of
one
an
of these
agent
every year.
Hell of an agent that Jackson.
Is it all
Dart
the same agent?
Maybe, probably.
I mean, we could really go back. It was Mac Jones. Mac Jones was one of these guys, and he still ended up going in the first, but people thought he was going to go third overall. Mac Jones in 21. Who was it in 22? What was the 22? Oh, that class. That was the 1 year the league got smart. And we didn't have actually Malik Willis. People thought Malik Willis was going to go 1-1. So it was Mac Jones, Malik Willis, Will Levis, JJ McCarthy, now Jackson Dart. There's just one of these quarterbacks every year that is average to terrible that for whatever reason we have to get told is actually a top 5 pick and we don't know what we're looking at.
JJ and Dart have different agents. So they're both just putting in good work.
They're just both excellent. They're both excellent. They went to the same agent school or something. Anyway, if you're the Browns, right, and you're there at 2, and you have a chance to add Abdul Carter and replace Myles Garrett, what's the gap between Sanders and whoever your QB3 is, Milroe, Dart, Howard, whoever, compared to the gap between Abdul Carter and, Donovan Ezeraku or Kyle Kennard or one of these edge rushers that's going to go at the end of the first, even Shamar Stewart, right? The gap for the edge rushers is probably bigger. And do the Browns look at it and do they get their quarterback later? So I would say this would make, if the trade happens, it's even more or less like, I still don't think it's going to happen to begin with, but it's even more or less likely that the Patriots have a shot at Abdul Carter.
Or just not even get a quarterback. I mean, get a quarterback later next year, right? Like if they could load up on,
or they kick it down the road entirely.
An extra first round pick next year and say, okay, we're like, this is going to be a long kind of rebuild here. We're going to take best player available this year, which is Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. If you're trading Myles Garrett, probably Abdul Carter. And now we have 2 first round picks. We're not going to be good, so we're probably going to be at the high of the draft anyway. We have 2 first round picks next year. We can dip into that quarterback market. Probably going to be a lot better than this year. So that's how they probably should look at this. So then that hurts the Patriots if they don't like Shedeur or Cam Ward, and you're missing one of those 2 defensive players or Travis Hunter, offense, defense, at the number 4 pick there. But yeah, just going back, like I don't see the path for Myles Garrett to come here. I know that Khalil Mack was the popular kind of trade comparison, which he went for 2 first-round picks, a 3rd and a 6th, and then it was Mack in a 2nd-round pick back. He was 27, so he was 2 years younger, but never had the production that a Myles Garrett did. Even, Khalil Mack was really good, but I don't see how the Patriots can kind of fork that over for a 29-year-old pass rusher, even though he's as good as Myles Garrett. Like, you're just not in a spot where you can hand over first-round picks right now for that guy. So it would definitely fill a need. He's one of the best defensive players in the league, but I just don't see the path to getting that done if you're the Patriots right now.
Same.
So, anything else with that? The Abdul dream's over. Ashton wants to know.
I mean, I'm not going to say it's over. This draft is probably too unpredictable to completely rule it out right now, but it is a dream. I think that's the best way to describe it at this point. It's closer to a dream than a reality.
Yep. So we'll keep monitoring that. Who knows with how trades are going down these days with Luka and then De'Aaron Fox and NFL. It's the NFL's turn to maybe do something crazy, but
hopefully at least, I guess he requested it, so they will, but like
they'll hear from more than one team, maybe.
And also Myles Garrett's going to know he's getting traded from the organization that he's the face of, as opposed to just finding out in the middle of the night. What the hell were they thinking?
That was crazy.
I can like sort of understand the logic behind the trade. I don't agree with it, but I guess I see what they were getting at. The path to get there to me is what's so mind-numbingly stupid. Between, he's a little overweight, okay, and he still averages 38 and 8. That's pretty good. And then again, even if you are going to say for whatever reason you're out on Luka Doncic, and these guys know basketball better than me, maybe they see something I don't find. You're not going to shop them. You're not going to see what you can get.
Do they know basketball better than you?
I thought they should.
I think you could have got a better return for Luka if you were in charge, probably.
Well, I did have somebody point out that, like, I think it's like 30-something% of the draft picks over the next 2 years are owned by 4 teams because the Thunder have a ton of them and the
Spurs have a lot.
The Spurs have a bunch or something like that. But it's like, okay, trade him to one of those teams. That's why they have those picks.
You don't think the Spurs would want to pair Luka and Wemby together or something?
I will say Wemby and De'Aaron Fox is going to be sick. De'Aaron Fox is one of my favorite players in the league. Super underrated because he was stuck out in the middle of nowhere in Sacramento. But yeah, or maybe you don't get the picks, but maybe there's another team that's like willing to move on from a stud player. Maybe there's another team that's fed up with their star.
Not 31 and injury prone.
Right, exactly. Like, I know there's been a little bit of a rumbling out of Milwaukee that maybe Giannis is available for the right price. Imagine now Giannis for Luka, that's a trade. As Felger would say, that's a hockey trade. Giannis for Luka, and I think I like Luka better than Giannis. And I would still say that, the Mavericks got the raw end, but like, that's a trade. You want to talk about defense wins championships, we're building for the next 10 years, not just the next 4, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's the trade you make. Anthony Davis, I know he's only 31, but that's not a move for the future. You're at best keeping level in the present with Anthony Davis at best. And you're not nearly, you gave up 6 years in age. So that was a very dumb trade.
Well, didn't the GM say, he said a lot of stupid things, although he took 4 questions and then left to leave poor Jason Kidd alone by himself up there at the press conference. But he said, we think of the future as 3 or 4 years because we won't be here in 10 years. So, man, what a mess that was for the Mavs. I feel bad for Mavs fans, but crazy stuff.
What is the equivalent? What would be the equivalent for the Patriots this year?
Oh, for the Patriots.
Obviously, they're going to have to be on the Lakers side because they don't have. I guess if they like trading Drake May for Matthew Stafford, I guess would be that side of it. But can they convince a team like Ramondre Stevenson for DK Metcalf? Something like that.
Yeah, something like that, I guess. But I don't know. There were a lot of NFL comps going around. Schefter had the Lamar Jackson for Joe Burrow, which made 0 sense.
That's Doncic for Giannis.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
No, the best one I saw was Josh Allen for Matthew Stafford, where it's like Stafford's good, it's not bad, but he's not as good, and he's significantly older.
Yeah, that was.
I would not be mad, by the way, if that trade happened.
I saw Joe Burrow, after they lost the Super Bowl, if they traded Joe Burrow for Matt Stafford, something like that, that's better than Joe Burrow for Lamar Jackson. That one made 0 sense.
The best, I thought of kind of an interesting one. This is a little outside of the box, but I think maybe people don't get, just talking to people in Dallas and stuff like that, is it's not just that Luka was a great player. This is a team that has very little history. Luka was already the second best player in franchise history. He was on track to be the best, and they the story of it, and sports is ultimately about stories, to go from Dirk, who was a once in a generation player, and literally find that player again a generation later, and they played together for a year. And it's that same thing. European guy comes over, offensive juggernaut, all of that. It made me think, imagine if the Packers lost that Super Bowl to the Steelers and then traded Rodgers. Now, the Packers have more history than the Mavericks do, but what's driving so many people in Dallas wild is not that Luka was a good player. He was a continuation of Dirk. Yeah. And to blow that up, it's like you've seen this work. They won a title with Dirk. You've seen how this works. Why would you go away from that? So I think the seamless transit, maybe Burrow is a good example too, because that's not a team with a ton of success. Because it's not just that they traded a good player. They traded the face of the franchise, a franchise that historically has not had many faces. I guess that's true. Oh, now the Bills have had faces. They just suck as a team. Burrow, yeah, Burrow's another good one. Burrow for Stafford.
Patriots, though, that's a good one. I don't know what that, like, what's the Patriots equivalent to that trade right now?
I mean, well, it would be May
It's
for Stafford, kind of, but
if you're
May's
going
not
that
as
way, yeah.
established as Doncic. They're going to go the other way. It's like, who is the solid start? Mike Onwenu for DK Metcalf?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Or like Bentley, like your defensive anchor, Juwan Bentley
Yeah.
for DK
Oh, no, it'd
Metcalf
be
or
Hunter
something.
Henry. It'd be Hunter Henry for DK Metcalf. That's what the Patriots equivalent
Henry
would
for
be.
DK
Hunter
Metcalf.
Henry
Yeah.
and a future pick for DK Metcalf, which I would do. I would absolutely do. Not the
Yeah.
fourth, but a future pick. Yeah. You re-sign Austin Hooper, you draft a tight end in the third round. Boom.
There
Off
you
and
go.
running. But I don't think the funnier thing is like everybody now who's putting out, because this time of year people send me mock drafts. Some of them are really good, some of them aren't based in reality at all. But like I can't feel like I can call them unrealistic anymore. My buddy sent me a mock draft today, and I asked him how he got Carter at 4, and I was like, "How'd you do that?" I tweeted this out. Kyle McCord went 3rd, and I was like, "That's nonsense." And he was like, "The Luka trade," and I was like,
Fair.
"You got me." All right.
That's
Future New York Giant, Kyle McCord, I guess.
I was talking to someone over the weekend about like the NHL trade deadline coming up, and they've kind of had like this new with the Four Nations tournament and all this time off, like they've almost built in like an earlier trade deadline. And we were talking just, what the Bruins could get for some of these guys if they start to sell, and everyone's like, oh, you're thinking too much. Like these teams get stupid and desperate a lot of the times. Like you can get a lot more in the right situation, and stuff can get really crazy. And now this comes out of nowhere, like one of the craziest trades we've probably been alive for. So who knows? Shoot for the moon in these trades.
How about this one? I was doing a goofy first round mock yesterday that was like the Luka Doncic anything is possible mock. Ready for this? You want a best case scenario for the Patriots. Cam Ward 1-1. The Browns need a superstar to replace Myles Garrett. And I didn't even know Myles Garrett's getting traded yet, but it plays into this. Browns need I guess at the time was, they're just going to build up on defense. Who do you pair with Garrett? Do you pair another edge rusher, or do you get a stud corner? Travis Hunter goes 2. Cam Ward, Travis Hunter. We know the Giants like Shedeur Sanders. He goes 3. Patriots suddenly getting a bunch of calls because teams are panicking and, oh no, the quarterback class is better than we thought externally. Here come the New York Saints, the New Orleans Saints up from 9. Doesn't Jalen Milroe seem like a Saints kind of quarterback? So Jalen Milroe goes 4 to the Saints. All right, now who's going to follow the Patriots? At 5, the Jaguars take either of the Michigan defenders, Mason Graham or Will Johnson. They're going to continue to screw Trevor Lawrence over as long as he's there. That's what the Jaguars do. That's at 5. At 6, the Raiders, Chip Kelly, Will Howard. You're going 6 overall to Las Vegas. At 7, guys are still falling. It's the Jets. They're going to make the wrong pick. Jackson Dart, you're a New York Jet. At 8, Carolina also needs defense. Takes whichever Michigan defender. Jacksonville didn't. Mason Graham or Will Johnson. And with the 9th overall pick, after getting a haul for moving down, the Patriots get Abdul Carter. How about that one, huh?
Wow. Okay. Abdul Carter and a future first. Why not?
Tell me it can't happen. Tell me in the post-Luka world, tell me it can't happen.
Anything can happen. Anything can happen in the post.
Somebody's going to be like, I can't believe, I'm going to go on Twitter. Barth said, Jackson Dart's going 7th overall. Like, yeah, it was a very real thought experiment.
Well, there's our
I do think Will Howard could be a Raider, but it's not going to happen at 6. It's going to happen on day 10.
Don't they have 2 second-round picks? Or
I think they do. I think you're right.
Let me see. I have the mock draft simulator pulled. They have 20. Oh wait.
No, it wouldn't be 20.
37. Add 37. Oh no, I guess not.
Somebody.
Oh, they have 68 and 73, 2/3. That's it.
Okay.
So if he makes it there,
he's going to be a Raider with Chip Kelly, but it's not going to be at 6. As fun as that would be. Jackson Dart at 7 of the Jets. I'm not rolling anything out there because it's the Jets.
Who knows? All right. Well, there's our quick basketball minute. But if you want to go see Luka play with the Lakers, if he's healthy and skinnier by March 8th, he'll be at the TD Garden. and you can use Game Time for your tickets. A lot of good hockey events coming up at the Garden. We have the Bean Pot on right now. BU is up 6-1 over Harvard.
Wow.
BC Northeastern playing after that, and then the championship will be next Monday. $70 cheapest get in for the Game Time on Game Time app right now. Super deal down to $120, fourth row in the Garden, and that's for both games, the consolation and the championship. And then the Four Nations tournament is in a few weeks as well. USA, Canada playing at the Garden, Marshy versus McAvoy. Plenty of good games there. Or if you want to see your favorite team play anywhere else, use Game Time and use Game Time Picks. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So head to Game Time for their lowest price guaranteed and other in-app features such as seat views, all-in pricing, and Game Time Picks, which again makes it even easier to save more on your sports tickets or any other tickets you are looking for, such as concerts, comedy, theater, anything at all, and take the guesswork out of buying all of those tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right. We'll wrap up with a few quick things. With all those random trade discussions, I did think of one thing. Is there any player you would trade the number 4 overall pick for straight, or maybe not straight up, but in a some sort of package for? Like we said, maybe not Myles Garrett because he's 29, but
I assume we're doing non-quarterbacks.
Micah Parsons is like 25. Is he going to want out of Dallas? Like, is there a player that you would actually feel comfortable trading that pick for?
Oh, this is like players who would realistically get traded, because like Justin Jefferson.
True, but
that doesn't count.
Realistic, if there's someone out there.
Parsons would be interesting, especially for the way we think they're going to play defense. Parsons.
I don't know any if Jamar Chase, but they're gonna have
right.
To
if you found out Jamar Chase wasn't going to get paid, I would trade 4 for Chase.
Is Penei Sewell locked up?
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
I don't know who else might be on the move.
All right. You want a really creative one?
Let's hear it.
And I don't know that he's available. Would you trade? You go to the Chargers and you trade 4 for Joe Alt because they're playing him out of position. And do they see more value in the 4th overall pick than Joe Alt playing out of position? Because they took him, 6?
6.
So you turn 6 into 4. I know Harbaugh would go nuts with a player like Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
So.
Or Genty. Harbaugh with Genty.
You see Lance Zierlein had the Jets taking Genty 7th.
Because Breece Hall hasn't ran for 1,000 yards.
Beautiful. There's the thing. I believe the Jets could do anything because they're dumb.
Well, here's someone who just team informed him they will be seeking a trade, not for number 4, but any interest in Cooper Kupp. He just tweeted, I was informed that the team will be seeking a trade immediately and will be working with me and my family to find the right place to continue competing for championships, and went on with a couple paragraphs. So Cooper Kupp is officially on the trade market. Any interest in him, again, not for the 4th overall pick, but maybe some type of pick swap or one of those 2/3, or I don't know. What do you think Cooper Kupp would even go for?
I don't know. Yeah, probably something like a 3rd round pick. Maybe, I guess, to play that slot role. He's 31 years old. He's been dealing with injuries. I know he had a good year last year, but is he still going to be an impact player by the time you're really competing? By the time you're really contending? I don't think so. And there's an argument to be made for he'll help Drake May in the short term, and you trade for him now, he gets it through the next year or two while you develop the next, like that true, Drake May's long-term slot receiver security blanket. I mean, I'm not saying no. I don't think I'd give up a top 100 pick for him. If it's like 104, or maybe you pick swap, you move down from 77 into the 4th. Yeah, they don't. I don't think it's
the age and the injury history is tough.
I'm trying to search for a better example. I want to say, it screams Eric Decker, Demaryius Thomas to me. And I don't think he's quite that done as those guys were. Well, Thomas actually had an okay year for the Jets. It just reminds me of that. It reminds me, all right, we need a wide receiver. We're going to bring this old guy in, see if there's anything left. And then there wasn't. So I'd bring him in and see what there is, but I wouldn't give up anything significant to do that.
Yeah.
And somebody will, because there'll be a team that's trying to win a Super Bowl. Honestly, the Bengals, right? Even if they keep Higgins, put Cooper Kupp in the slot with those two in the old Tyler Boyd role, and you're really rolling. Like if you're a year away, if you feel like you can win this year and you're a piece away, yeah, you get a little reckless. You give up a day 2 pick for Cooper Kupp. So it doesn't really make a ton of sense for me.
That would be, if he was healthy and you put him next to Jamar Chase, that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
In Cincinnati. So that could be a good one. They do, the Rams, they picks 90, 100, and 126 there in the middle. So maybe there's some pick swap, like 77 for Cooper Kupp and 100. I don't know if that would get the job done, or if they are just looking for straight capital and not a pick swap. They have
I
a
would
gap.
probably do that, but I don't think they're going to do that.
They have a gap from 26 to 90, so they're probably looking to plug that gap in the draft with the trade there. So we'll see what happens with Cooper Kupp officially on the trade market. So anything else to wrap this up? Did you have any last Senior Bowl thoughts? The game was Saturday. Just I'll just say awesome moment for Jack Bash, like catching the game-winning touchdown. Good game and good week of practices, and then has a good game, one of the top receivers, and then the walk-off touchdown, everything he went through with his brother to end the week like that. Just an awesome moment. But any last thoughts on the Senior Bowl? We might still do something with Taylor to, he was down there, but he is again at Super Bowl week. So
big league in us.
Yeah, seriously. But any last thoughts there from the Senior Bowl on your part?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
All right. So we will wrap it up there. We'll be back later this week, probably Q&A, unless any news breaks that we have to talk about. And then I believe first mock draft next week, right? Post Super Bowl?
Yes, probably Thursday. We'll do Super Bowl reaction show Monday or Tuesday. And then Thursday we'll do the draft.
First mock, fun begins. All right. So make sure you guys follow Barth on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Head over to 985thesportshub.com to read his Patriots coverage. You can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines. Head over to patspulpit.com for our Patriots coverage. And make sure you are subscribed to Patriots Press Pass and wherever else you guys get your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in with us tonight, and we will see you guys later this week.
Bye.